All right, welcome. Let's go ahead and get started on our chapter 7. We're going to do our PowerPoint and then probably delve into the first one. For chapter 7, this chapter is about manipulating strings, tokenizing and parsing those strings with specific types of methods. A little bit on regular expressions. We kind of delved in and talked about that a little bit last time, but actually using the regular expression object. Some examples of that. And reading information from a client-based or chosen text file. So let's get started on talking about reading information from a text file. Now, text file is all in ASCII code, and ASCII code is pretty much what the text file mostly consists of. So when we say text file, that means it's like a notepad text file. It can't do any real formatting. You can't have like WordPad or like HTML tags in it. It's not like a document where you can set a heading and make change your fonts, or add pictures or anything. It's just text. It's just ASCII code. And so it's limited to 128 characters. So when you look at the ASCII code chart, it's pretty much the way it's just your keyboard mapped out. And you'll see the different values that are assigned to your keys. And I've probably talked about this multiple times with you. But those of you who it's first time to see it, ASCII code, this is a horrible example. Where's the one that I usually use? This one I usually like. There. Okay, so that's the ASCII code chart, and we're going to be talking about string, the compare function with strings, and that's how the compare function works. Is it can tell that a C is greater than a B, or a B is less than a C, because a B and a C are actually assigned numbers, 66, 67. So that's how that compare to function works that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. But a text file, it consists of just these codes. And you got some special formatters like the \T, which is a tab, \R, \N, carriage return, new line. Those are all available to you in like Notepad. You just hit the enter key and it goes to the new line. But \R, \N is actually what's put in the file. Which is a \R as a carriage return, so it'll be the number 13 in binary that's put in the text file, and for the carriage return. And then you have a new line here, the number 10 will be in there, and that's what will be in the text file. So a lot of what we're talking about working with in this chapter is strings and that type of data, and strings contain this data here, and it can contain information of any data type, because we can use this ASCII code chart to represent any data type. If we want a floating point number, we just put in like 12.4, like the value 49, 50, and then we find the point and then the 4, and then we would convert that into the actual 12.4 number when we read it in from the text file. Because the 12.4 that's in the text file is the number 49, the number 50, and the point, whatever it is in here, and then the 4 is the number 52. That's what's in the text file, is the actual ASCII code values. And that's pretty much what you have to work with on text files, and working with strings is this right here. Which makes it really easy to think, because hey, a string can or to work with, because you know that a string can only be composed of 128 different values, and they're all right here. Okay, so let's get into the PowerPoint some more, and with when working with reading in files, you're going to use the file object and the file reader. The file reader object that includes the files element, and that's going to be something in your HTML. And then the file reader will be able to load the file for reading the text information, and that's the library that we use for it. So here is an example of grabbing the files collection and assigning it to the file object. Now the thing is here is this dot files of 0. You notice that it has this in front of it. So you got an assignment. You can't really, when you're using a function that is an event handler, and the onChange event gives you something, you can refer to that as this. There's also other reasons for this in JavaScript, other ways that it's used. And you want to make sure that you use the right event for opening files, because you don't want to use like the click event for the button that opens the file, because the click event for that button is going to run before the user chooses the file. So you need to make sure you use the right event that fires after the user has chosen the file. And then you can run this code and grab the file information from what the user chose. And they can choose multiple files. That's why you got an array there. There's a way that you can look to see if they held down the select button and chose multiple files. In this case, we're only choosing one file, and that's why we use the index 0 here for just one choice, one file choice. Okay, so in this case, we are going to use the onChange to be the get file event handler, and that means that this will contain the files. For an event handler, often it's either what you click on that gets sent to you that you use this to grab a hold of, what actually implemented the event, what fired the event, the actual thing. Like if you have a whole bunch of buttons and every button has its own or the same event handler, how would you differentiate on what button was pushed? So you would set up the event itself, and you could figure out what button was pushed by using this. That's one of the ways it's used in JavaScript. Other languages, it's used sort of the same, but also differently. More of an inheritance type thing. So, when you are working with information that you read from a text file, you're going to be having some jobs that you may need to do, such as parsing and tokenizing and substringing those words in that text file and making decisions on them. And it's called parsing and tokenizing, and essentially what it is you break up the whole paragraph of word, and you get just the words in a paragraph, and then you can make decisions on just those words. So the idea of the parsing and tokenizing is the act of reading your string with logic and an algorithm to make a decision based on what's inside the string. And that is done with several different tools that you have available to it. You can do it all by hand, or you can use the tools. And the tools that you will work with are laid out here. Let's see, where are they at? Here are some of the tools right here. Let's look at that. Oh, come on, working with text streams. Nah, let's just move on to here. These are the string some of the string properties that you have available to you for working with strings and parsing and tokenizing. Parsing is the act of changing the string based on what it currently has. To lowercase is changing, to uppercase is changing. Sometimes you need to trim white spaces from the beginning or the end of the string. It's pretty common for users to kind of accidentally hit the space bar before or after a data entry. So that's one of the things that we do automatically with any kind of input field of a string type, is trim the spaces, any white spaces from the beginning and the end. Okay, so here's just some examples on using the trim. So what this is here is it's saying take the text, the particular string itself, and it looks like they're using the source text for the book. They're actually throwing the whole text, or for the file. They're throwing all the text in the file into this value called source text. And then what they're doing is here they're saying take the current value of source text, change all the text to a lowercase, and return the new value source text. And then this one just does a trim on the beginning and ending for leading and trailing white spaces. And of course this is all posted, so you can look at it. So this is another way because of working with strings, because you got to be able to understand or be able to grab a specific character within a string. And so what you can do is you can use the member access operator and do a char at of like 4. And what it will do is any string that you have, and you can use a variable name here instead of just doing a literal and then doing .char at. This could be a variable name, my string .char at, something like that. But basically it says grab at the 4th position. So A is the 0th position, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the H. The slice and the substring methods, they are used for parsing parts of a string and getting out specific items or strings within the string itself. So if you want to grab out a little piece inside of a string, you would give it the starting index that you want and the ending index. So this should have given us example here where, there we go. So right here is slice, we got from 4 to 10. So that means take this string and slice it from position 4 to 10. And so you got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the space, 8, 9, 10, Lincoln. So it looks like it's exclusive and inclusive for the first, and the last one is exclusive, meaning that it's -1. So it actually goes until 9 instead of 10. Yeah, that's exclusive. The substring, it looks like it's inclusive for the 4 and 10, or this substring looks like that one's inclusive. But these pretty much do the same type of jobs. Maybe that one? No, because it's taking the substring of a substring. So the slice, substring, and substring, those are fairly important when you're grabbing particular values outside of a string. The one that I use the most is the split method, though, because often you just want to break up and tokenize your text into just words, an array of words or something like that. So that is what the split is mostly used, and I don't think they really talk about the split too much here in this chapter. That's all right. Yeah. Oh, here's the split. Okay, so the split is important because it's probably the most useful of all the things that we've just talked about. To return any substrings by passing in a delimiter. So you can have like a comma separated file with just values with commas in between, and you can take it and split it based on a comma instead of like this @ character here. And what it'll do is it'll take all those values in that file and it'll give you an array of every value in there, tokenized and parsed without the comma, and every value that's separated with a comma is in its own index in the array. So for example, when I do a split of this string and I tell it to delimitate based on the @ character, it's going to return an array of strings that represents the pieces of each string that has been delimited by that particular character. So then my first word would be Lincoln, because we split it based on this character. So that's the first word, second word. And then that's the next into the array. And that's used in almost, that's pretty much a function that's common in every language out there. It's just part of the way. In fact, most of the stuff you're learning here is in every language out there. Actually, everything in here is in every language out there, mostly. I always down talk Python, so I've got Python issues. Now, the concat method is something that you would use in lieu of the plus and the plus equal operators. You don't really need it, but the compare method, now that is when you compare two strings, and that is important because it does it's how you can do it's how you can alphabetize lists or sort values, and because the compare function will count up one string and compare it to the other string with algorithm that uses the ASCII code values and the normal rules of alphabetizing that you guys learned in grade school and middle school to pop out which string is less than the other alphabetically. And you can use that in your sort methods. So you send it one string, and the compare function, it's traditional that it returns a 0, a -1, or a 1. And because this is a function that you'll see in C, C++, JavaScript, PHP, Python. No, Python sucks. Java, C#. Most of the languages out there have the compare function. In fact, if they use the less than and greater than, then they just have a compare function they're using for the less than and greater than, because the compare function is that much of as I would say, the type of tool that you find in every toolbox, as far as languages are concerned. And so what it'll do is, if one is less than the other, it returns a -1 or a 1. Depending on which one you send into argument 1 or argument 2. If the two strings that you send in are the same, so here you're running upon string 1 and comparing it with string 2. So if one is less than the other, you're going to get a -1, or you can take string 2 dot local compare and run in string 1 and it'll flip-flop. So I never remember which one is -1 or a 1. I just flip-flop it when it doesn't work the way I want it to. But what it does is it returns a 0 when the strings are actually exactly equal, which to me is like just so stupid oxymoron, because 0 means false. The 0 value is false in every language. So it's the only function that returns a false that actually means true. I usually joke about that. But that's the compare function, and again, once you work with it, it's in every language out there. Okay, and then regular expressions. You guys, I'm not going to put a lot of time on regular expressions. You guys can go through the rules and stuff. I'm not going to sit there and wax eloquently about the rules of regular expressions. You can deal with it. But I will talk about the example code. So let's get into the example code on how a regular expression is used for an actual object. First, you want to assign a variable. Now, this is not what I call good code right there. So I don't know whether they're omitting the double quotes like you're supposed to, or that there's a special formatting here. I think it's special formatting. This \G and that backslash is probably allowing it. So this is the way I would actually do it. This looks correct to me. Let pattern test equals. So you put in the regular expression as a string, and then you create a regular expression object, and you create the object, but you send it in the pattern test for you to be able to test with. Okay, and then you run the test method on the object, and you send it the string you want to test the pattern against. You can also run a search for the regular expression, because you can send it what you want to, the actual, you can send it the regular expression based on the string for the search, so that you can find the place where the regular expression matches in the string. This one you're probably going to use the most, because mostly you want to take a whole string and you want to see if it passes the regular expression test. And this should be RE. They're probably RGX, yeah. So they just got an RE. That should be REGX there. So it's probably a little bit confusing. And then str.search REGX. So there's two different ways you can work with the regular expression as an object in JavaScript. And I think I played with it that last video and left it for you guys to have fun with. Okay, so let's get into, let's see here, programming regular expressions. Searches RE. Oh no, RE is it looks like it's actually a normal variable that's already available to us that you can just use. Okay, let's see. RE dot. Oh no, it is. It's the function. It's the object. Okay, so searches the text string str for the character pattern expressed in the regular expression RE, returning. So that regular expression RE is a regular expression object. Searches an str for the character pattern RE. If a match is found, returns in Boolean true. So you can send the regular expression object to a string, or vice versa, from a string to a string. So that's like what? 1, 2, not that one. 3 different ways to work with the regular expression that you guys can delve into. All right. Now, here is the split method, because what you can do is you can actually run the split method based on the regular expression. That's cool. I like that. And I found that there's some people that have solved whole programming problems with regular expressions. If it's your programming assignment, don't do that. If you're out in the workforce, yes, do that. That's the way you would want to solve it, because that would mean that you found a regular expression that everybody accepts as an appropriate method to identify a match. Okay, so it looks like we've got some RE is the regular expression defining the character pattern of the substring to replace. So it looks like you can just take a regular variable RE and assign it to a regular expression and start working with it. Well, when we get into a little bit more, here we go. Here's some good examples. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So we create a regular expression. Now here's one of the things that I probably messed up in the last video. That forward slash and the backslash G, that is what's indicating the start of the regular expression and the end of the regular expression. And then you can work with it. It looks like because of that, the first backslash and the end backslash G, you can now use alpha regex as you would see here with the examples of re dot test, as long as you declare it in this manner right here, because that actually sets up this as an object of a regular expression. So you can use, instead of doing it this way, you can, because this is doing it literally, instantiating the regular expression literally. This is instantiating the regular expression using the new operator. And so this is instantiating the regular expression object literally, and then using the replace function, sending in the regular expression so that anything that matches white space in that particular text is replaced with an empty string, just nothing. It's replaced with no value, essentially just taking the white space out. Okay, you know what? I think we've got the idea and some good examples of using a regular expression. The difference between the main difference between the literal way of creating a regular expression and the actual object way using the new operator. And using the replace, you guys can play around with that. This one is splitting based on a regular expression, and notice the first forward slash and the backslash G. Those are the start of regular expression, end of regular expression. Okay, and again, here's more examples. Backslash, backslash G. Okay, let's move on. I think we've talked about regular expressions enough, because I wanted to get into a little bit on this sort function. Now, the sort function, it will work within an array, and you can just run it on the array itself. The reverse will reverse it, of course, in the other lexicographical order. And the sort function actually uses that compare function inside of it. You can actually build your own sort if you wanted to. You can build a special bubble sort with a compare function. But if you have an array of words that you need to sort, just use the sort method. It'll work well for you, especially if that array is all strings, obviously. Or you can create your own bubble sort using the string compare function. Okay, what do we got here? Exploring array methods. This is more a little bit on the frequency array, and I'm not going to delve into this because we're going to want to get in and start doing some code here. So it's talking about the sort method with the compare function inside of it. Ascending, descending. So slice, splice, split, I think, stack, and queue. This goes with arrays. So when you're working with an array, sometimes we like to work with an array in a special way. We like to work with an array sometimes in a last in, first out manner, and that's called a stack. That means like a stack of plates at Granny's buffet. You put your plates on top, and then they stack up, and then the first one is the last plate that was put in the stack, and that's the one they grab. That's the last in, first out method. Now, queue is just like a grocery store, first in, first out. So it's not there's nothing really with these terms stack and queue. You should not be getting freaked out on these terms because it's actually stupid simple. It's not. It's how you use an array. It's how you get data to and from the array that makes it a stack or a queue. So if you push items into the array and pop off the top, you're using an array like a stack. If you push in items off the array and grab from the back of the array, that's or from the front, depending on how the pop method works on the particular library. It looks like probably from the front. It would just be a queue. So the array stays the same. The stack and queue words come in on how you use the array. Are you putting items into the array and grabbing the first items that you put into the array out of the array? Or are you taking and putting items into the array and grabbing the items that were just put in? So that's the last in, first out, and the first in, first out principle of a stack and a queue. And remember, stack and a queue is just different words we give to an array that you're using in a particular way. It's still just an array. Okay. All right, and let's see. Activity, think picture. I think math object. That's in every function, every programming language out there. And then the date object. The date object. The main thing that is important about any date object that's used the most is the time span. And one thing that you want to know about the epoch value, it's milliseconds from 1970. That's how time is done on the computer. It is literally one huge number that is used in the computer to tell the time. And that is your epoch value. And so when you're working with a date object, that's what it's doing at the very bottom level, is working with that epoch value. So you can do just a search on what the epoch value is. But yeah, it really sucks when you're given one large number to try to track down somebody that went to a website inappropriately. So that you can find the hour, day, time, month, year from just one huge number. Now this is actually seconds from 1970. The actual number has two more zeros to the right here because it's actually milliseconds from 1970 that's being kept track of. So this one's running a little bit slower than you would because it's going to be harder to count up the milliseconds. And even that one just kind of died a little bit. But this is how a computer tells us time. Is one huge number, and that's it. And you have to send it through a conversion to get the actual human readable date, and vice versa. You can go back and forth between those two. There's an algorithm that does that for us, or you can build your own. But the epoch is an interesting thing about how computers tell time. Yeah, milliseconds from 1970. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I was just like, oh, but if you need a random number generator, it's always good to seed your random numbers with the epoch value because it's always guaranteed to be unique no matter when you run it. So because it's millisecond to millisecond. So it's going to be a unique value each time, and that's what you need for your seed when you're doing a numeric or a random number generator. Because it's not truly random unless you seed it properly. Okay, I think we are into its code time. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, and then we're going to go in and get 8-1 started. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, let's take a quick perusal from our code. We have our a submit form, and then we have a create account form. And we have some JavaScript that we're going to get started on. And it looks like we're building a sign up form, and we have a submit button that we are working with that we then get the password, and it looks like feedback elements from the HTML. So let's go ahead and get into the vital source and kind of see what our or the book, and see what our steps are, and hopefully I can stay back from cheating too much. We'll find out though. So we're going to get into 7.1, and looks like we got our HTML, and we need to do the same stupid, silly naming thing. Okay, I'm going to get beyond that. Okay, and then 2, we got to include our script. Okay, and we're doing it in our 7.1 HTML that we're going to include our script. So we're going to do that on our body, and that's for project that JS file. So let's go ahead and get that step done, and we'll do that in the project 7.1 text HTML, and we're going to do that down here in the body at the end. Script source equals, I love that. Definitely love that. Okay, and then script. Okay, now we should be able to see that in our debugger. And I haven't switched. I just put this project in here, so I'm going to tell it to activate project 1 7 text HTML as the running folder for this. As the running HTML for this. Okay, and then I'll hit play here, and it'll run that one. Okay, well it should. There it is. Okay, so hands-on 1. If I go down here to developer tools, let's see, developer tools, we've got our sources, and I should be able to see the JS file, and there it is. Okay, we are ready to move on. We've got our code ready to go. I'm on recording, good. Little OCD there, pretty healthy. Now we're going to go to vital source, and let's go on with some of the more instructions. Okay, so we got to add the prevent default command to prevent the browser from responding to the submit event. Okay, well that is good, because we don't want them to do that particular thing. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to the u.prevent default. I'm gonna do some research on that. Let's see. Yeah, I'll be right back. I'm gonna look that up real quick, and I will see you shortly. Okay, so when working with event listeners, you can reference what actually invoked the event listener with this. And there's some event listeners that give you some specific arguments that you can add. So when you tie a function to that event listener, the argument usually we have that comes in, we just call E. And that's the event arguments for the event that was actually implemented. And if we want to stop the submit button from working, what we need to do is tell it to prevent the default as stated, but we're going to use the E method and prevent, and it should pop up. That's interesting. Prevent extension, prevent. Yeah, this might be a problem. Prevent default. We'll figure out. We'll figure that out as we progress. Is that something that I need? Let's go into the instruction. Oh, it looks like it's just a function that runs. So you just run it. Okay, yep, you just run it, and I am cheating. So let's go ahead and create the regular express literal, but this is a literal. So we need to do that special container, and then we'll look and see if we're doing right on the cheat sheet. So let's go in and let's create this regex 1, regex 2, regex 3. And we will do that here. And I believe what we can do is make this actually a function that runs. Then, just because I am me, I like to do all my runtime below and all my variables above. So I'm going to say let regex 1 equal, and then we'll put in a regular expression there. I believe we got to do that between them. Something like that. Control C. Let me see. I bet you the book has, okay, containing regular expression with the correct symbols. The backslash dollar for the dollar symbol. We're going to cheat. We're going to cheat. So let's go ahead and look at those. And for the literal, you guys are going to follow the rules from your book to come up with these rules. But you need to make sure that you surround that with the, when you do your literal, with those special special formatters, as you see here. See the backslash and the backslash. You gotta have. Well, it looks like the literal is working literally, but the you have to have delimiters there. Okay, so let's grab these guys. So these are going to be our first bit. Okay, let's get those guys in there. There. Okay. Now those are literals. If you were to do this the other way, you would do this. You would do reg1 equals new regular expression. What is the object from your, and then you send in your pattern here. Regular. I think it was just regex. I think it was regex. And then you would put in your pattern here. Let's say that you would do A to Z, something like that. And then you would have your regular expression object that is done with code instead of the regular expression literal. That's oh yeah, when you're doing a video and you answer a text, horrible. Excuse me. All right, let's get into our instructions again. Now we have the literals that are kind of the same as this, and now we're going to use those. We have our prevent default, and now we have some other instructions we're going to get into. Okay, so the next one, create an if-else statement. Follows the conditions and outcomes. If the length of the password is less than 8, set the text content of the feedback object to your password must be at least 8 characters. Okay, well that's should be fairly easy. Let's go ahead and if the length of the password, okay, so let's see, password if, and we got to do this after we set the password, of course. So this is obviously right here. And then we can set the text inside the feedback element to the value. So if PWD is less, PWD dot length, I think that's a function, is less than 8. if it's less than 8 characters, then we want to assign a value or else do something else. Okay. And what do we want to assign the value of? We want to, let's see, we need to assign the feedback property or value to the text. So we're going to say feedback dot I think it'll be value. Oh wait, would it be inner HTML value? Possibly, but I think just value. Let's look at it. Okay, value is equal to please enter up to 8 characters. Okay, we're going to go ahead and cheat now and make sure that I'm kind of on the right track, because I don't want to waste your time doing too many Google searches. Okay. Feedback.text content. Interesting. Let's look at that feedback element. What is that feedback element? If we can look at it, is there anything? It looks like feedback is just a regular ID. It's just a regular value. It's just a div. That's all it is. So a div text. So HTML div set text of div. That would be a good search term for that one. HTML set div text. How do I change div content with Java? How do I replace text inside a div element? We'll probably get a whole bunch of different answers on this. Inner HTML, that I figure would be fine. Text content. And that's why inner HTML is no longer used, because it's out of date. We should be using text content, because the other ones are deprecated. And you're going to find that a lot. Here's the thing, is text content, when you get people that start saying, oh, this is old, this shouldn't be done anymore. Well, what they don't know is what they're stupid, and they don't know that the new text content has inner HTML in it. The new is built on the old always. So if you can go the old way, you're always going to be more efficient and better way. And better, but it's not going to be as easy. So I'm going the old way. Heck with these guys and their stupid new stuff. Okay, let's go inner HTML. Okay. Okay. And then what are we supposed to do for the rest of it? We're supposed to... oh, that's easy. These ones we just have to do is it oh, and length is not a function. Length is a property. That would have been an error. Okay, and then the next ones, now we just get into testing the regular expression. So what we'll have is something like this. Okay, else if it's false, so I'm going to grab all these guys because this is pretty simple stuff. Okay, and then we'll throw in, oh, yeah, all right, whatever. Else if, let's just go ahead and write it out longhand. We'll get the first one and then we'll go from there. No, the heck with it. It should be able to work. There we go. Okay. Else if, okay, and one thing I can't abide is that, and I know there's a reason for it, but it just drives me insane. And that. Yeah. Web programming takes up a lot of stupid text, and to lessen it as much as possible is always preferable, but it's actually stupid. Because it's hard to read. Jeez. Okay, so you see here we got our first look at our password length, and then we set up our feedback. Please enter update characters. And then we look at our regular expression, and our literal, it's an object that has been created with a literal. So we can, since it is an object, we can apply the member access operator on it, and you'll see that it will pop up with everything that's applicable to our regular expression object that we can use and work with. And then what are we going to test? Well, we're going to test the password to see if it matches for the regular expression. And if it's false, then that means that you didn't pass one or more tests for a particular regular expression. And then finally, the sign-up form. When we have an event listener that represents a submit function, we need to tell it that it's time to submit, but we only allow that submit to go through if all of these passed. So in other words, the user pushes on the submit button element. This event listener is fired. It goes through all the checking, and if it passes all the validation, then we allow the sign up form submit data to be sent to the form submit. HTML file, or the processing page for the data. This would be done, sent as a query string if you're using old school. But this is where you say, okay, what the user entered passed muster. Go ahead and send that data. Go ahead and do the submit of that data, of that form area or region of code in the HTML. So that's this form region. This form right here, and for signing up and putting in a password and username, and the submit button. And then once the user hits the submit button, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, don't allow the submit button to go through. Prevent the default, because we want to catch that. So let's not allow the submit button to go through. Let's pause and look at things and say, hey, what values are these guys? Are they actually passing the values? And if they are, then allow the submit to go through. And that's where you're saying, hey, the user hits the submit button. It's time to send the data over to the HTML data handler, or wherever that data is going to go to, that you've typed into the boxes. And you say, hey, don't automatically send it to that yet, because here is where we go into, right here, we've set up the submit button, and you can actually in code here tell it what particular thing to do. But in this case, our submit button sets up the data for us to be sent over in the post fields. So now we've got the ability to submit data, tell it to stop and pause, look at all the information in the text or the form fields, and then decide, oh, the data's good, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to submit it already anyways. And that's what that's for. So pretty simple stuff. There's other things like JavaScript now. There's a library that's called React that's actually used now instead of doing your own JavaScript form input fields. If you're using like server-sided scripting, you may use JavaScript with it, or you could build your own form input fields using PHP with just simple print statements. But that's a whole nother thing. That's server-sided programming. So that you can get from me when you head up, or we might have somebody else by then. Who knows? When you get up to the 300 levels of server-sided programming with CSIT 316, if you're going in that direction, or 311 or whatever it was. Okay, and I think we can test now. So let's go ahead and run this and see if our goodies are actually working, and we're able to get something. Okay, so I did this, and I did this. Okay, now I'm going to hit save. Okay, so what happened there is none of my code worked. It sent the information without checking it because it should have seen that I had some things missing. I think maybe actually I might be having, oh, that's because I'm looking at the wrong page. That's the other page. So what we need is to set a breakpoint in here to see kind of what's going on and where, the prevent default. I think that this might be something that we need to probably do some research on. And I think some of you guys may have talked to me about it in your email or something like that. Prevent default JavaScript. Because evidently it's not preventing the default. So I am going to pause it and figure out what's going on and then come back. Okay, so it looks like it was pretty simple. I just didn't capitalize the D and prevent default. So it doesn't pass that one, and then it looks like it's catching the other ones in there too for the else ifs, for the regular expressions. Okay, guys, that's an example of working with regular expression literals. One thing that I would suggest for improvement is no longer working with literals. If you can, try to work with the object as an object, but hey, that's just old school. I like to do things the old way, and there's a lot of reasons why. And it's because the new way is just using the old way, so it's less efficient. Yeah, typically. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.